Hello, and welcome back to next episode of discovering more about Phoebe, my mental illness, and how I am coping today. Now, I have my little fetish. What is it called? In all cases, it's my fetish Caillou, meaning that it's a little kind coming on here. I think I'm gonna. Okay, doke. Okay, doke. Here it is. And this is what it is. Okay, it's called a Caillou. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but it's a Caillou, and it's basically a when you see the stars that are peeping out of it, they are people of canvas, but I can say limestone, and then you have this kind of Caillou. It's more of a reddish kind, and these are people of mic people. If without a mic, when you're this way, not, but you can be suffocated until I believe that there's a collapse. If there's not a collapse, you're probably not going to give given the authority to do so, but you can basically ram. But just say, I probably do it okay, well. Now, this is another Caillou, and these are basically for those who are of the celestials. And when they, if you pierce this here, you can basically see lots of microphones that are in it that were hidden from things that are of the financial aspects of the universe. And these things that were hidden, most of the time they kind of evaporate. No, just go. And you don't ever hear speaking of them again, basically speaking. And a lot of them sometimes like to stop by. Hello. And I chose to do what I want. Basically, everybody is disobedient. You just have to be, can I say lucky perhaps? Or somebody that has a special thing that eventually speaking they will collapse themselves before allowing you to do so. So these are, you call them the kind of ones that hangs out on the floor, and when they hang on the floor in a person's house, they just look around and just seeks, just they look and they try to find where the source of it is, and if the source is not competent, or if the source decides that I don't feel like it, or if it's very anal in its mind, then they get it kind of feed in this one, and they would knowing what they do, but they just look at it and then put it aside. And then you have another one, which is basically those things of which were catered for a special canvas to do in evil. And when the person has reached its limits of its capacity, you would take the naughty thing and put it in here, and they too would look at it all day. And they probably would remember this one until they would fatigue the living hell out of that aspect of the universe, and the universe have to collapse that day. And allow them to see. Now, they seem that part of the universe, they probably don't like looking at people because of their naughty ways. So they probably would never look, whoever carries it, you don't carry it. It just hangs on the floor, and it hangs in, I don't know, not necessary places of these because it's crowded, but it goes into the homes that are basically people who pretentiously are helix, and I guess you can call it that. See, if you want to call it clean out. Now I'm going to put this aside because I don't want to talk about it. I just wanted to focus on this one, and I can boldly say this one. I'm going to probably get cut off because my time is very limited on this kind of clip that I'm doing here. And this one here, it's basically this part of the little girl who is always speaking on the intercom, and I suppose her name is Phoebe. And this part here will tell you a lot about the girl's sketches in terms of how you use her glasses, how do you use her canvases, how do you use her microphones. A lot of it is on here. Most of the time, those information, I suppose, wants to be given in the top part. But when you check her suitcase is very clean, so there's a lot of whipping and longing of the mouth that will come out of this one. Now, basically speaking, in my birthland, the financial aspect of Phoebe, it's pretty laid out. Musically speaking, you snap, you take pictures, you put it on the net, and then the money that you're supposed to have gotten falls from the scale, from the sky, and the things that are on the floor in the Americas cannot come and scavenger them. And this is why I focus on this one and not the rest. Now, for my descendant lines, this is who we are, and this basically composes of always looking up. We are not the people to look down, and it kind of snaps out the pessimistic side of us, and always keeps our nasal clean, keeps these part of our canvases clean, our apparatus of which we operate, which is our I don't know, our phones, etc. Basically on this level. So looking up means optimistic to the point of, my God, they live in a nuage, which is what we like now for people to say, because their mom has been through way too much drama. And a lot of people are saying, oh my God, I would love to. But when you kind of punches over, you get the feeling that it's not a very pleasant thing, especially when you go to the anal part of the human being, and still we would still stop to talk. So we will work on perhaps collapsing that part and then resuscitating. But the good thing is she's probably going to be able to get out on time so that she can go back to her homeland of her birth. Something that has been really working in the minds of her kids for quite a long time, and feeling very sad because they don't want to be separated from their mom for a very long period of time. But it's come to the point where she has been back there so many times that she has gotten used to that and is enjoying the climate, and could actually get into her tiny little clothing. Now, I it gets to the point when you're uppity, you have to tell people, yes, I'm that good, that you want to string along. Now, when you're doing these things, I suppose that when these things are collapsing, these things will happen. So be it. Why? Because I am tired of taking care of people's problems which are foolishness. When did you have a job? Were you working? Were you outside? Were you able? Well, okay. Well, if that's okay, well, go. Did I get a meal today? No. And I am here. Now, some things that these things, if you start emergency room. So, and it's the way it's seed out would probably get stuck right here if you tried to swallow it. So I don't say be mindful. I said this is kind of what I'm demonstrating. So it's like demonstrating this part of the ring. I take it and eat it just to putting things on your shore. Now, the mic that I'm holding it is things of these, which are what that aspect on the floor is comprised of. So it's a way of letting it know, do not get besides yourself. Now, I focus a lot of my dilemma right now. I consider it not necessarily the ex of my ex or whatever, or being thrown out of a house or being ex from somewhere. It's basically the way, I guess the aspect of my cleanup was or is. Where is that? Where is that person that actually bore her? Now, one is in another state and doesn't have the capacity to help. And I consider myself a big woman in terms of raising my children for quite a few years and then giving them off to society. We call it not giving it off, basically, allowing them to feel society is this way, like you're using your shoulders. And very glad about that because when I'm going through these difficult moments, I feel it kind of obnoxious in talking to them about it or explaining. Just know that she had a very terrible mental spur, which become mentally ill, and a lot of times mentally ill people seeks the unseekable, and the ones that are very disturbed, they have to be able to go and I guess seek whatever. We spoke about that before, and I have no intentions of defending the cause of homelessness. Defend the cause of myself. How do I find what I feel was a missing link in my life? And the missing link a lot of times stirs from here because when you look around you and you see every person, even to the lowest of the lowest, is able to say, "Hi, Dad," you say, I am probably the only one that was not able to have that and entertain it and then having beautiful kids. And I guess that is the discussion of the universe in terms of it is true. And it would say that if she's the one that distributes the water, then was it done on purpose? Perhaps. But sometimes it's the story of her life and not the story of everybody. Every life, she's a subject and she comes with a predicate and she has her kind of a what you call a zipper, which is basically what I'm talking this here. Now, unfortunately, the line of family that have sprouted out of my tummy comes this, and then I perhaps have a little granddaughter that is discovering that also, and could be very sad because it would be, how do I compromise? How do I deal with her phone shenanigans? And how do I deal with looking at her and she cannot see me, but I can see her, and she can see me because of the floor matter, and she is probably waiting to take mine also, and the people know that. And how would she know that? This is really spooky. Now, this is what I'm saying. When I actually get these shenanigans, these out of my head, spend the time outside, and I come and I relax myself a bit, I can get, but I have to go very fast on this episode because my clippings can shut down, and I do probably one per day to keep you guys up to date on my whereabouts. Now, when you get back to this part, once you get in these things, once you find, it's like fossils, see, but this is just a prototype of what I want to talk about. Once you get into it, you probably would find what you call that letter, yes, that H in there, basically speaking, and basically it's wrapped in there and causes the rest to wonder, how will we get it out? And that's a question that I'm asking myself. But by the time you get there, Phoebe might already get to her her own Phoebe self and discover that they are not necessarily their own when they're seeking these things. And because mankind, especially the man of superiority, is always seeking that kind of challenge. And once she gets there, she gets to relax because she can see way above and is able to distribute those things. So, my little one, she would probably enjoy that a lot. But in the meantime, I try to keep myself clean because there's a lot of things that can actually fall very attracted to these things, but it's only through grandma. Now, I guess my granny, who actually raised me instead of that mom, knows it's this part of me very, very well and is able to kind of bring it to the point of laying it here and giving Phoebe the possibility of being able to speak to it and even whip it sometimes. No, I am not going to give that message. You are too. Meaning that let that person, well, what are you worried about? But I would say sometimes these things kind of fall. I don't know, my bag is getting a little weary. And when it does, I whip it off, clean it up, and then I deal with, my stand to put my phone, just in case the part of my iPad decide to, I don't know, if somebody wants to steal it, I suppose that the police is already, and the police is probably not in good standing right now. Now, it's meaning that does it have like bubbles in there? It does have bubbles, but this specific kind is really to trap that one on the floor so that you really think you are the baddest of the baddest, and I'm going to show you how that you're going to function in another life. In the meantime, you're probably going to have to abide by this one and stop wishing things of her being chubby or this way or trying to throw her down, and stop trying to say I'm going to break up her stuff. Now, I am probably blessed, since I'm talking about in terms of having these things to be able to talk about and having my things restored to me when these things come upon me, because when you're outside, it's easy to get caught up in roughness. Now, this part, the part here, deals a lot with Phoebe's dad, which are my children's grandfather and my little one's great grandfather, of which he prizes, but is unfortunately not here to really look at them and admire them. And I am sure that it's something he's very sorry about. He's probably sorry about me more now than when I was a little child, because I had to be able to develop, and he knows of the capacity of Phoebe to get the frequencies of the uppers and hear them speak. Now, that is not the topic of it right now, but when I'm on Bigo, I'll deal with Bigo that way. Now, it means that these type of kind of Caillou Rocher comes in a form of a kind of a Zeus this way most of the time, but it comes like the one that I spoke about in Greece. They just this way, and then the mouth is completely flattened. And this one, when she doesn't like it, you have to remind her that in the next life you probably will be attention to what the Mets were telling you, not this one. You're going to regret it because you're going to invest and you're going to lose that investment. Now, when I spoke about my dad, he was somebody who he probably heard not. He wasn't a hearer, but he was able to vise, meaning that he scanned things, and when he scans, he brings it here, and then he was able to capture it, put it on his nose, and able to shake hands with whoever he needed to get that water supply to, and the person was able to do it, and he was able to get the heaviness. I believe that he kind of scouted the land of Guyana Was he originated from there? Apparently, yes, he was, but he probably has a kind of a mixture that is very unusual and causes Phoebe to be able to hear things, but hers gives it over to the Met, and the Met has to deal with the multitude of people all over the world now, and that's the difficulty of Phoebe's hat. So Phoebe does or canvases. She exposed it a little on Bigo, and I don't think I was able to. I don't know how it works right now. Well, I do, but I have to get in there and check. And perhaps one day I can expose it on my clip, and then it will probably let this part know that he was a canvas person foremost, but those kind of qualities could have gotten him way to a high level of success. And apparently he died when he discovered that he was able to be a very, very rich man. And cleaned up himself, knowing that the daughter that he would have gotten out of marriage, wedlock, would have been extremely difficult. But it was decided that not by pitching, because of these things. Now it is possible and it's true that you can create it to blaspheme or kill, or kill the hat and leave her stranded. And basically this is what people feel. Well, we'll see about that, because most of the times the impression of the hat is get her back to Guyana, which is quite a difficult task because her funds are very limited here, and the ticket has to be bought. She has to look for a place to stay, and she has to be able to get on the metros, and those kind of cost her. She had to buy like 3 weeks back to back, and it's almost like $30 per week. And then I suppose this part will stay cleaned up. Now, it means that her dad probably would have been 100 years old. He probably would have been basically speaking. He would say no more to that in terms of I was a hectic form of a canvas, and he did demonstrations. So he's expecting his daughter to get out of the shenanigans one day or another based on getting back to Guyana. He focused on Guyana because he believed in her nose, and he believed the rising of the land in the riches. Now, a lot of the riches were not believed to be his based on his canvases. His canvases demonstrates all the riches that he has in the land. Whatever he scanned in the oceans deep, whatever he scanned through these things, because he was very interested in it, not knowing that his nose was of that format. And I guess Phoebe's feet are, and this part of her is based on things that will probably pop out here one day. And I believe it comes in the form of a contracts, and which is spread out throughout her descendant line. Now, they are not allowed to be spoken to of these ways. Mankind get too anal, excited, and silly, and you have to be able to stop talking to me about my children. I cultivate my children in my heart, and that's all it is. And they are the love of Phoebe and nobody else. That's all. But I have to be able to give them the time to be able to dwell with themselves and among themselves with their dad when it's so possible, and allow my granddaughter to grow, because that's the understanding of the universe. Now, I probably have enough of the things to accompany me with the kind of soothings that I have, and to accomplish the things that I have to, but it's kind of in a very comforty way, very disturbing way. So I have to be able to have my suitcase and my stuff ready to get on the next flight. My flight is on the 28th, but I'm having problems with my passport's short-term expiration date. In other words, it's going to be expired soon, and I have to get it renewed before I leave this country. They want it to be at least 6 months in advance. So I have to get to the passport agency, and I had to buy the ticket at the same time. So it's on the 28th, but I am scared that I may have to push that a little bit just to have the funds to get the passport, which is costly. And then I do have to, I basically all of my stuff are lost. So I have to be able to get most of the stuff are things that I work with, like my pad and different aspects of the things. Now, my dad probably, he a guy who's probably proud of himself? I think he was. Fearful? Probably not, because as a man in the country of Guyana, he probably didn't indulge in those things and allow himself. Now, between my mother and the mom and the man of which she had probably a brief affair with, I don't know. I cannot say that for now. It probably was something that was scheduled and not something that was to last. So when that happened, she had to realize that the child that she was going to bear was probably a child of prodige and not a child that is kafati or a bond woman or a child who flings things out, and she makes it known by her anal ways. Now, once that was conceived, then I suppose he had to leave. But I guess she could have cultivated somebody else as a sort of a Joseph person, take care of that child, and she didn't do so. And I don't know if that's problematic for the universe, but they're going to have to deal with it because I have my own shenanigans with my own children. I refuse to speak to her. Why? Because in these times of troubles, I wasn't expecting my children to take care. I am close, but it's because the airport is here and not necessary. I would rather be in Huntsville, but Huntsville airport is kind of anal. So I choose this and it gets me there on a more direct route. And I was expecting that of her. This is why I seeked her. Some people said I seek, but you never seek that mom too early. She has to be available to you practically 24/7. When you make a child, for the rest of your life, you're basically responsible. When the child gets older, when the child have a little, okay, mom, dad, I need you, and I didn't have that possibility, so I depended on her. So most of the time, the first part of the life of Phoebe was dependent upon her. So she placed me in the hands of my grandma, fine. And then I tried to spend a lot of time with her when she came. I tried to get my children there a little bit, which was the wrong thing to do, and I'm paying the price. And I even got her to France, which was probably acceptable, but not quite what they wanted of the feet. Not being that candidate of hospitality is a problem. I guess the latter part of my life it was supposed to be, and even that is compromised because they overly exposed me and who I am. And it was to be very local. It was only supposed to be that ex probably who was supposed to know of the dilemmas, and they cultivate him in the wrong way. So now getting anybody else in the family has to be done prime because of that lack of attention. They say even towards what it's supposed to be fine. Now, for her to be able to understand Phoebe, she would have to get to I don't know, the Annie's store, for example, and get her some pretzels, or get to a store and get her some cook up and chow mein, or get to a Chinese store and get that. And that would have mend her heart, okay? But she probably wasn't responsible for her after a certain age. Fine. If she's not, then the universal aspects of the shows would get the opportunity of saying, well, she's not responsible for you in later years, and she's not responsible for answering your phone calls or accepting any money from you, but just get there, pay it. Now, how do you get there is not depending on anybody, because when you were able to get to Guyana in that state, you're able to get there on a train, and they have trains and they have Greyhound buses there also, whether you're supposed to take it or not, because you guys are problematic with this stuff. Now, the police is probably available for other people because it creates a havoc with the other people if she comes not as one, and then get back and go if that's what she wants to do. And then I guess those in Kokwani would applaud that in saying that's what they were expecting her to do instead of sitting down there, because this is why she stays away from her mom and the others too. And that's one has to cultivate when we send her away and sit at that window by herself and cultivate whatever evil she wants to cultivate. And I guess she probably knows that by now, what the future holds, and she has to stay away from everybody. And that's accepted. They don't know her that well. Was very ashamed of her attitudes in the talks. Oh my God, these talks of men and the talks of what they carry in their pantalone, all these things could have been avoided. Not when you have these things, they cultivate wickedness, and you would think that they are the purest of gold. Now when they get to that part of Christianity, there's a transformation, and that's why Phoebe would wait for Phoebe that takes place. So I wouldn't suggest you sit and wait. I would suggest you do, but don't mention it to your buddies, or don't try to clean up her, because it's going to get dirty, and this time it will not be her responsibility. She just likes to see the neatness of it. Now, our father, I believe, was not a Christian man per se, but he entertained the Catholic Church, and he was able to function with these things in his mind. And he even captivated through the Minotaur, and he was able to soothe the hearts of Greece future generations, which is very far away. Now, these things are what you would place here if somebody seeks to purposely want to use Phoebe's phone, and that's why the phone was says no. But you did have a meal, and that's important for a caliber of that, especially when you're talking